Last time we talked about Abinadi, and we're going to continue to talk about him again today. If you'll remember, he taught the 10 Commandments to King Noah and his priests, and he also taught them many other things, including that salvation only comes through the atonement of Jesus Christ. And he went on to teach from Isaiah, and then he taught more about Jesus Christ, and in the first part of chapter 15, he tells us that God himself shall come down among the children of men and shall redeem his people. And he tells us how Jesus Christ is both the Father and the Son. And he teaches us a lot about the atonement of Jesus Christ and his resurrection. And in our Doctrinal Mastery Book, it says this about the atonement of Jesus Christ. The atonement of Jesus Christ included his suffering for the sins of mankind in the Garden of Gethsemane, the shedding of his blood, his sufferings and death on the cross, and his literal resurrection. And I just love how much Abinadi teaches us in these chapters about the atonement of Jesus Christ. So today for your reading, I want you to read chapter 15 and chapter 16. I know I usually don't give you that much reading, but what I want you to do is, as you read these two chapters, I want you to highlight all the times that Abinadi talks about the atonement and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Highlight this, and so that you can better understand it. He talks about him coming to earth and being crucified and slain for the world so that he can make intercession for the children of men. And he talks about he does this so his bowels can be full of mercy and compassion towards us, and that he broke the bands of death. And he did all this that he can redeem us. Later in chapter 15, you're going to read about the first resurrection. And I want you to pay attention to who is going to be have the opportunity to be resurrected in the first resurrection. That's going to be in verses 22, 24, and 25. And then going on in chapter 15, he talks more about the atonement and resurrection. And then in chapter 17, we learn about Alma. And Alma, it says, is a young man. And it said that he believed the words which Abinadi had spoken, for he knew concerning the iniquity which Abinadi had testified against them. Therefore he began to plead with the king that he would not be angry with Abinadi, but suffer that he might depart in peace. So I love Alma because he had been one of the wicked priests of King Noah. But as he heard Abinadi speak, I believe that the Spirit touched his heart, and he realized that what he was doing was wrong, and that he was being wicked, and that he needed to change his ways, and that Jesus Christ was going to come, and that it is through Jesus Christ that he could be saved. And so he stood up and he pled with the king, and because he did this, he was cast out, and they tried to slay him. But what an example that Alma gives us of standing up for what we believe, even in the face of losing our job or in the face of death. And after Alma leaves, Abinadi is prisoned for 3 days, and then he comes out again before the priests and King Noah. And King Noah told him that he was going to be put to death unless he would recall all the words which he had spoken evil concerning the king and his people. And Abinadi would not do this. He said, I say unto you, I will not recall the words which I have spoken unto you concerning this people, for they are true. He goes on to say, I will suffer even unto death. So here's another great example. Abinadi gives us that he stood as a witness of Jesus Christ, and he knew that they needed to repent, and he would not recall his words, even in the face of death. And so the end of Abinadi's story is he was killed. He was killed through fire, and he prophesied again that the people would have the same pains and afflictions on their seed, and that they would be afflicted with all manner of diseases. And he finishes His last words are, "O God, receive my soul." And he would not deny the commandments of God, having sealed the truth of his words by his death. So as an assignment for you today, I want you to reply with a time in your life that you have stood as a witness of God. As I reflected upon a time for myself, I recall a time when I was in middle school and I had a teacher that kept using the Lord's name in vain in class, and I really didn't like it. And so I decided I would give him a Book of Mormon, and I actually turned to these words of Abinadi. If we go back to where we were in chapter 13, you'll recall he talks about the 10 Commandments. And I highlighted where it talked about taking the Lord's name in vain. And during our reading time, when everyone was quiet and reading, I walked up quietly to my teacher and I told him that I believed that taking the Lord's name in vain was wrong. And I gave him the Book of Mormon and showed him where I had marked it and asked him to not do it anymore. And he was very respectful and kind. And I hope that you can think of an example from your own life of when you've had the opportunity to stand as a witness of God. If you can't think of a time that you've done that yourself, then I challenge you to ask your parents or ask a friend, maybe a grandparent even, of a time that they have had the opportunity to stand as a witness of Jesus Christ. And so I want you to ask someone or think of your own example and then share with us about that time. And I look forward to hearing back from you.